Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashyakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomavadyaptadehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namah. Chaitanyam Sarvagam Sarvam Sarvabhuta Guhashayam Yat Sarva Vishayatitam Tasmai Sarvavide Namaha. We have completed ten chapters. And the 10th chapters. Oh, the आवाज आ रही. The 9th chapter is called the Sukshmata Vyapita. Sukshmata Vyapita. How Paramatma, the self, is Sukshma. It is smaller than the subtlest, most pervasive. Sukshmata and Vyapita essentially go together, and that is what is intended to be shown here. A way of contemplating upon the Atma. So every chapter provides different methods of contemplating upon the self, and this chapter also provides one by dwelling Sukshmata Vyapite Jnye Gandhadehe Uttarottaram Pratyagatma Avasaneshu Puro Puro Prahanatah. How to arrive at Pratyagatma, one's essential nature, and the essential nature of everything and everybody and everything. How do we arrive at that? Gandhadehe Uttarottaram. beginning of Gandha or Prithvi. So the grossest element what we experience, which is very evident to everybody, is the five elements which are the objects of perception of the senses, and they are well known to us. In them also there are certain categories. That one is subtler than the other one. So if you want to contemplate upon subtlety, the Atma is subtler than the subtlest and therefore the most pervasive. You can start with what is most evident. Gandha Dehe. Here the Gandha Shabda, Prithvi Shabdartha. In this verse, word Gandha stands for Prithvi, the element earth. Gandha, the fragrance, is the very nature of the earth, therefore. The guna is stated here to indicate guni. Gandha, the smell, is the guna or the quality of the element earth. And so earth is guni, one that is possessed of the guna of smell. So by the word gandha or the smell, what is meant is that which possesses smell, namely Prithvi. Gandha Dehe Uttarottaram. Beginning Gandha Dehe, beginning from Gandha, beginning from element Prithvi or the earth. Uttarottaram, subsequently. Sukshmata Vyapite Gneye. That when you go from the element earth to next element water, then water, which is the cause of earth, is Sukshmataram, is subtler than the earth. Vyapakam, and also more pervasive than earth. Thus we get the idea of Sukshmata Vyapita, the subtlety and the pervasiveness, and they proceed from one element to the other. Pura prahanatah. By letting go, by giving up the pura, the previous one. So earth, you give up that and you go to water. Give up that and you go to fire. Give up that and you go to Vayu, Akasha. Pratyagatma. So here is the prakriya for arriving at the Pratyagatma, one's own self. Beginning from the world that we experience, beginning from the grossest, that is Prithvi, how to arrive at Prithvi, which is grosser than the grossest and least pervasive. From there, how to arrive at the self, which is the subtler than the subtlest and most pervasive. खूब नॉइज से बना. पृथिवी अम्बादि लक्षणात् कार्यात् पूर्वस्मात् उत्तरोत्तरं कारणतया स्थितेषु प्रत्यगात्मावसानेषु the prakriya, the method is So the prakriya or the method is to proceed from karya to karanam, for effect to the karanam, the material cause. Because the material cause is always present in the effect, just as clay is always present in the pot. Therefore, we can shift our attention from the pot to the clay, and from the clay to its own cause. Ultimately, the ultimate cause is Pratyagatma. And therefore, the most pervasive is subtlest. वही वॉल्यूम बढ़ाना जरूर तो चाहिए, ऐसे मारे जरूर चाहिए. सूक्ष्मता व्यापिते ज्ञेये गंधादेहे उत्तरोत्तरम पूर्व प्रहाणतः. पूर्व इज कार्यम, prahanatah, by giving up the karyam such as pot, we arrive at clay, which is the karanam. Where clay is the karanam, So a simple prakriya or method is shown how to proceed from the karya to karanam to upadana karanam. Prithvi is the grossest karya, Pratyagatma is the subtlest karanam. Therefore, uttarottaram, you proceed from one effect to the subsequent material cause, from there to the subsequent material cause. Pura prahanatah, by letting go the previous effect. That is, by giving up the pot, you go to clay. By giving up the clay, you go to earth. By giving up the earth, you go to water. Pratyagatma vasaneshu, which process will ultimately result into Pratyagatma, culminate into Pratyagatma. Tasmat swakaryapeksha prithvi tavat sukshma. So from the prithvi, various vessels are made, pots and pans. In all of them, each one pot and pan is limited in pervasiveness because it only pervades its name and form. It has this boundary. But the cause, which is prithvi, pervades in all the names and forms. So what is more pervasive also is subtler. And also when we perceive the pot, we also perceive the prithvi, which is the cause. Even though we use the word pot, we do not use the word prithvi while dealing with the pot. But then the prithvi is very much there. And various pots and pans ultimately are made from the same prithvi, not that the prithvi in one pot is different from prithvi in another pot. Same prithvi. Therefore, tasmat swakaryapeksha prithvi tavat sukshma vyabhikacha siddha. Prithvi, which is the material cause, is subtler than the effects such as the pots and pans and more pervasive than the effect. The idea is that you cannot perceive the karya such as pot and pan without perceiving the prithvi. Even though you may not use the word prithvi for that object, you may use the word pot or a pan for that object, but prithvi is very much there. Without that, the pot and pan cannot be. If pot and pan is negated, then also prithvi remains. Puru prahanata, thus the karyam, earlier one, is negated to arrive at the karanam. Tad adbhi vyapta prithvi. Similarly also, now in case of prithvi, which is a material cause, and pots and pans effect, it is easier to show how prithvi is very all pervasive in all pots and pans. But that the water pervades the prithvi is a little difficult to show. For that, tadyat apam sharasi tat samhanyata yasa prithvi abhavat. Here the Tikakara resorts to the Shruti statement, where Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says that of the water, like the foam which is on the surface of the water, which solidifies, that becomes prithvi. So what is prithvi? The foam which is on the surface of the water, when that foam solidifies, it is prithvi. Therefore, prithvi is the effect or karya of water. Also you find that in the Parvatagra Shilayam, the rocks etc. which are there on the surface of the earth, you can see the water in them. Sweda Prasravanadehe. So what is flowing from them, flowing through that, flowing out of them. So water is very much there in the Prithvi also. Thus, if you observe properly, you find that the water, the rasa, is very much present wherever Prithvi is there. The rocks may be there, they are very solid, very tangible, very hard, and water is no hardness, and still that water is very much there in the Prithvi everywhere. It is supported by Shruti as well as by our Anubhava experience. Tasma Jala Vyapta Prithvi, therefore, Prithvi is always pervaded by water. Saparinama iti jalam prithivyaha vyapakam suksham, therefore, the water is the more pervasive than Prithvi, subtler than Prithvi. Tatha saprithvi jalam, and then the water along with the Prithvi, or Prithvi along with the water. Tejasa swakarana, then we observe even the water also. When you observe the effects of Prithvi, we find Prithvi pervading all of them. When you observe Prithvi, we find that the water always accompanies the Prithvi. Prithvi is never without water, so water pervades Prithvi. Similarly, when we observe the water, we find that it is always accompanied by fire. Tejasa swakarena vyaptam, because Tejas, when the fire is the material cause of water, so Shruti says. Akashad vayu vayoho agnihi agnehe apaha, etc. Sarvatra ushma upalambha, in water there is always ushma, some warmth is always there in the water. So not only we see the fire pervading the water, but the rule is that the effect merges into cause. And therefore, if you sprinkle water upon hot iron, for example, the water gets absorbed, and therefore the water has merged into fire. So that also we see. Thus the fire pervades the water, subtler than water, cause of the water, more pervading the water. And so also the Vayu pervades the fire. Sun, for example, yatasya udayati surya. Sun is the embodiment of fire that merges into air when it sets and emerges from the air when it rises in the morning. And of course the air is always pervaded by the space. Edat Sara, all of these, beginning from Prithvi all the way up to the space, each one of them, all of them are pervaded by Satta Sfurti. That earth is, water is, fire is, space is. How do you say it is? Because the earth is known to us, water is known to us. So all of these are invariably pervaded by isness and being known as Satta and Sfurti. Then what this is, all of these things are Satta, Sfurti, Satchit, that's all everything is. Satchit becomes Upadanam, the material cause of all of this. How about Sat and Chit? So we find that everything is pervaded by Sat and Chit because everything is Asti and Bhati, shines in awareness. How about Satchit themselves? Are they pervaded by something else? No, there is nothing else that pervades or follows. What is pervading? But even if this thing goes away, that thing remains. Water pervades the earth, which means that earth goes away, water remains. So Satchit or Asti Bhati pervades everything. That means when everything goes away, then Satma, Satchit remains. Is it possible that Satchit also go away and something else remain? Nothing, because there is no isness will be there. Therefore, Satchit is Nirapeksha Vyapakatvam. They are so unconditionally all pervasive, unconditionally subtler than the subtlest. Tadanena Satchin Matrena Sarvasya Dushradi Grastatvat. Thus we see how Dushyarashi, whatever is perceptible to us, being Prithvi all the way up to space and whatever else, is always pervaded by Satchit, by Asti Bhati. Na tatah prasakyam vastu vidyate. Nothing whatever exists apart from Asti Bhati. Iti tasya parama sukshmata vyapitve vyapite nischitya. Therefore, the sukshmata and vyapita, the subtleness and pervasiveness of Asti Bhati are unconditional, not dependent upon something else, not relative, absolutely pervasive, absolutely subtle. And that is Pratyekatma. Soham Asanga Kutastha Advayatma iti. The Asanga Kutastha Advayatma Satchit Asti Bhati I am. So how this world enables us? What we experience enables us also to arrive at the experiencer, and the essential nature of experience in the Atma, and that's how contemplate upon the self. Soham asanga kutastha advayatma. Asanga kutastha advayatma iti bhasada bhavayet. Therefore, to utilize the experiences that we have, how we can utilize the experience of this gross world as a basis for contemplating upon the nature of the self. And so, Pratyekatma avasaneshu, up to the Pratyekatma. Then na etavata atmana ukta swarupatva jnana siddhi. Wait a minute. You said that Atma is such it, all right. But how do you say it is all pervasive? Unconditionally pervasive, unconditionally subtle. Because you took the Prithvi here, but Prithvi also Adhyatma Adhidevatayoho Prasivyadihe Bhedena. You started your analysis of Prithvi. But Prithvi itself is divided. As Adhyatma, Prithvi obtaining at the individual level as my body. Adhibhuta, Prithvi obtaining the elemental level and the divine level. So Prasivyadehe Bhedena Prasamanatvat. So Prithvi etc. are all well known as obtaining at the three levels Adhyatma, Adhibhuta, Adhidaiva. And how do you say that Atma is all pervasive? We talked about Adhyatma Prithvi, but how about the Adhibhuta, Adhidaiva? Sarira Prithvi Tavad Yavad Bhashya Pramanatah, the second verse says, Amvadini Chatatvani Tavajnayani Krusnashaha. See, Yavad Yavad Bhashya Prithvi Pramanatah Parimanato Bhavati. Tavat Tavat Pramana Sarira Prithvi Jnayati. The Prithvi that we see outside, what we call the Adhibhuta Bhautik, at the elemental level, That very same Prithvi obtains also at the Adhyatmika individual level. You cannot distinguish between the Prithvi, which is the Adhibhuta, the object of knowledge, and Prithvi, that Adhyatma, at the level of the body individual. Whatever be the Prithivitva, the Prithivitva meaning that earthiness which is there out is the same earthiness that obtains at the individual level. You can't distinguish the two. Therefore, in Prithivitva there is no distinction such as Adhyatma, Adhibhuta, Adhideva. It's one Prithvi only. Although in terms of name and form they may appear to be different from each other. In terms of being Prithvi, in terms of being earth, there is no difference in the earth which is individual, earth that is elemental, earth that is divine. Similarly, Ambadini Chatwari, similarly also the Ambu, the water and the fire and the air and the space. Bhutani Krusnashaha Nirvasheshadaya Tavat Pramanani Jnani. So we should know that in waterness there is no difference between the water obtaining at the individual level and the water obtaining out there. The fireness is not different, the airness is not different, the spaceness is not different. It may look at the first sight that the fire here is different from fire there, but the fireness is the same. Iduktam bhavati adhyatma adhibhuta adhidevatmana vibhaktanam prasivyadinam. So what happens is, now suppose you recognize, say you take the individual Prithvi Adhyatma and merge it into water, Adhyatma water, into fire, into air, into space, into Atma. If this Prithvi is merged into Atma or Satchit, then does it leave the external Prithvi as something independent? Or external Prithvi also is merged? Ek agnyana vijrumbhitatvad, because all of these so-called Adhyatma, Adhibhuta, Prithvi is only one really. But Prithvi appears to be divided into Adhyatma, Adhibhuta, Adhideva simply by ignorance. Ignorance has created the Prithvi as well as the differences such as the Adhyatma, Adhibhuta. Therefore, Ajnanam, the ignorance, is the primary cause of Prithvi of all the levels. And therefore, when the ignorance goes, then this Prithvi, it is not only Adhyatma Prithvi gets merged in ignorance, Prithvi itself gets merged, leaving no difference of Adhyatma Adhibhuta. Therefore, they are not essentially different. Eka pratnena pravilapanopatte. Therefore, all of them can be dissolved, merged, just by one effort. Not that you need to make one effort to resolve Adhyatma Prithvi into Satchit, Adhibhuta Prithvi into Satchit, Adhideva into Satchit. No. By one effort, all the Prithvi at all the levels becomes merged or resolved into Satchitananda. Therefore, there is no real difference of Adhyatma, Adhibhuta, Adhideva. Pratyagatma brahmatavan matrameva sarvam avasishyate iti. One Pratyagatma with Brahman, that alone remains. Then evam paragaratasya asatve. By saying this, you have essentially erased the difference of Pratyak and Parag. We say Adhyatma and Adhibhuta, inner and outer. The Vyavahara involves the Parag and Pratyak, the ideas of innerness and outerness. So when you say that the Prithvi which is inner, the same as Prithvi that is outer, and therefore whole Prithvi, inner, outer Prithvi, all of these gets dropped or negated or merged by one effort. They all get merged into Avidya, which gets merged into Chaitanya. In that case, the difference of the Pratyak Parag, outer inner, does not remain. Then why do you call it Pratyeka Atma? How do you call Atma Pratyeka Atma? Inner self. Because the idea of inner doesn't remain in knowledge. The outer inner ideas also do not remain. Paragartasya sattve katham atma pratyaktvam. How do you say pratyagatma avasaneshu? How do you say atma is pratyak? Indwelling self? And then how do you say it is all pervasive if it is not indwelling? If it is indwelling all of them, then it pervades what's all outer. So it's called Pratyagatma and Sarvatma. The indwelling inner self and the self of all. If inner self is not there, self of all idea also is not there. Atah katham paracham pratyagatma avasanatvam. Therefore, how do you say that what is out there all gets merged into Pratyagatma? Chinmatra swarupasyeva apurvadi lakshanasya pratyagadi shabdehi lakshvatvat. Tad etad brahma apurvam anaparam. That Brahman itself is apurva and anaparam. It doesn't have any purva or anything that precedes, there is nothing that follows, it doesn't have a karya, doesn't have a karanam, it is not karya, it is not karanam. So it's true that in Brahman ultimately the idea of Pratyak and Parag they don't remain. Chinmatra Swarupasyeva Pratyagadishu Lakshatva. You start with Pratyak. Start with inner Atma. It ultimately culminates into Chaitanya, which is devoid of innerness. You follow? In knowledge of Chaitanya Atma, innerness no more remains. Otherwise, that innerness would be opposed to outerness. In that case, it cannot be non-dual. So when you begin, there is inner self. Lakshyartha is self which is devoid of the innerness, outerness. Lakshmana dashayam auravida paragartha apekshayam api. When you begin, so there is a pratyak, parag, all these words, they ultimately resolve into the lakshyartha, which is the Chaitanya devoid of the ideas of pratyak parag. So you say pratyak atma, but the word pratyak, which literally means inner, ultimately that word also gives up the innerness. That is vachyartha, it loses. What is lakshyartha? Chaitanyam, that is devoid of the pratyakvam, paragtvam. Begin with parag, then it loses its paragtvam, and ultimately dissolves Chaitanya, that is devoid of pratyakvam, paragtvam. Aham ekah sada shuddha chinmatra sarvagodvah. Aham ekah sada shuddha, all that is I am one, ever pure, chinmatra sarvagah advayah. That's the lakshyartha. So even though pratyagatma avasaneshu, culminating in pratyagatma, when the word pratyagatma is the first verse, because they are external as compared to that innermost self was said. But when externality does not remain, the innerness also does not remain. Therefore, external, inner, all of these words are indicators to lead to the principle which is devoid of the innerness and outerness. Vam sada shuddha chinmatra sarvagah advayah. Then I am not pratyagatma anymore even. Chinmatra advayah. ननु कथम आकाशवत् एक एव आत्मा सर्वात्मा भवेत्? How can one Atma be Sarvatma, the self of all? Because we experience so many Atmas. Brahmadi bhedena bhedena anatmanam anekatvasya vibhavimanatvat or atmanam anekatvasya vibhavimanatvat, not anatmanam. Brahmadi bhedena atmanam anekatva vibhavimanatva. See, we find Brahma as one Atma and then everybody has a different Atma. So Atma anekatvasya vibhavyatva. Atma is shining, is experienced as many. Beginning with Brahma up to a clod of earth or grass. Then how do you say that one Atma becomes the self of all? We see many Atmas. Tatha Chaitanya Matra Anupannam. That we cannot say that all there is Chaitanya. Number one. Number two is this, that Atma is not only many, but Atma also, that is what Sankhya say. Atmas are many, Ragadi dosha samsarga upalabde. And Atma also is found to have ragadvesha dosha. One Atma is happy, one Atma is unhappy, etc. So Atmas are not only many, but we find our experience that Atmas are possessed of different attributes. So how do you say that only one Atma is there and that is Sarvatma? So then fourth verse says, Brahmadyaha sthavarantaha ye praninaha mama puhu smrutaha kama krudhadayo doshaha jayaranme kutonyataha. Again, quoting here the Shruti, Brahmadyaha sthavaran, beginning from Brahma, sthavaranta, ending to sthavara, such as tree, immobile. Ye praninaha, those living beings, beginning from Brahma, all the way up to a clod of grass, let's say, a blade of grass. Mama puhu smrutaha, all of these praninaha, all of these living beings, asmrutaha, are said to be mama puhu, they are all my body. So nirnitaha ityartha. And so this is how puhu praninaha sarve eva guhashayasya ahanyamanasya vikalmashasya. So this comes from this, what is it? This apastamba smriti, Adhyatma Patalam, which is in the part of apastambas. Anyway, so there it is said that Sarve eva pranina, all the pranis, all the jivas, mama guhashayasya ahanyamanasya vikalmashasya puhu. They are all my body. Who am I? Guhashayasya, one that dwells in the cave of the intellect. Ahanyamanasya, all of them are mortal, I am immortal. Vikalmasasya, all of them have kalmashas or doshas, I am devoid of all the doshas or defects. So this is how all the pranis are said to be my puhu, my body. Meaning that they are not different from me. The body is not different from me. All these living beings are my body. And therefore, they are not different from me. And kama krodadaya dosha. So kama, krodha, etc. are seen in mind, etc. But they are all my body. They are not apart from me. I am apart from the body, but the body is not apart from me. All of these are my bodies, but then I am different. They are because of me, I am not because of them. Kama Krodha, all of them are in them, but they are not different from me. Therefore, Kama Krodha do not arise from a source other than me. Chayaranme kutonyataha, where else this Kama Krodha will arise? All there is I. So this looks like talking about Vishishta Advaita, which says all this universe is the body of the Atma. All jivas are the fractions or the sparks of Atma, consciousness, etc. That's not what is meant here. But all Chaitanyas are the bodies, all the jivas are the bodies. And therefore, no Chaitanya is different from me, no mind is different from me, therefore the raga dveshas don't arise from a source other than me. So how can they be in me? Na me swabhavikaha, raga dveshas are not the swabhava of mine. Vicharitvat, because if raga is my nature, I should always be ragi. If dvesha is my nature, I should always dvesh, vyavicharitvat. But sometimes the raga is in me, sometimes it is not there. That means it cannot be my inherent nature. It may not be your nature, but something influences you and creates in you raga dvesha. So there is no something else. What is anyatva bhavat? The body does not stand apart from me, and therefore there is nothing other than me that can create raga dvesha in Atma. So raga dveshas are not the inherent nature of Atma. Nor is there anything other than Atma that can induce raga dveshas in Atma or me. So all of these are the answers to the various doubts that may arise in our mind based on the experiences that we have or based on our interpretation of our experiences. So Pratyagatma Vasaneshu, the proposal that was made, Pratignya in the very first verse, based on our experiences or rather than the understanding that we have of our experiences, which is wrong understanding, that creates various doubts about what is stated in the Pratignya in the first verse. Therefore, this is Mananam. The doubts arise in our mind on account of what we think we are experiencing. So the author is explaining what we are experiencing. And therefore our conclusion that arises from our experience, that conclusion is wrong. What is experiencing is your own self. You think that this Prithvi is different, that Prithvi, but that Prithvi is only one. And you think that Prithvi is different, no, that's your body, not separate from you. So that way our experiences are explained here. From our experiences, we may feel that there is inside, outside, one, many, sentient, insentient, etc. And so those conclusions are taken here for deliberation analysis to show how the conclusions that we arrived at are not right. Pratyagatmana nirdoshatvam asiddham samsara doshasya pratyakshatvahat. How can you say that Atma is nirdosha? We experience I am happy and happy, kami, krodhi. How do you say that's my experience? So again, conclusion is that ragadveshas cannot be in Atma. That's all right when you think of Shruti, but then what about my experience? Then I am a samsari. Iti ashankya. So whether the experience that I am ragi, I am dveshi, is it my nature or is there a superimposition? Akasha karashnatva pratyakshavata. You may say that the space is blue or black or dark. So my experience, how do you say that the space is colorless? How do you say that? I experience the space is blue. How can you say it is colorless? So blue that you are experiencing, is it the nature of space or is it something that you have superimposed upon space? Similarly, the ragadvesha, the dosha, the samsaritvam, that you think you are experiencing about yourself. Is it the inherent nature of self that you are experiencing? Or superimposing those things upon the self and concluding that way? Dosha dushte brahmatvat, that I am dushta, meaning I am polluted. That dosha, the pollution, impurities, defects are there in me, that is my conclusion, not a reality. What I am experiencing is the Atma which is free from all the doshas. Just as what I am experiencing is space free from all blueness. To say that space is blue is not a reality, it is something that my mind projects. To say that I am impure is not an experience of reality, it is what my mind projects. Bhuta doshai sada asprashtam sarabhutastam ishvaram nilam vyoma yatha dushtam mam vikshate janah yatha balaha nilam vyoma vikshate. Bala is just a child who doesn't know the science. Same child, when he goes to school, then he realizes that this blueness is not the nature of sky. Optical illusion it is. But until then it is real. Similarly also, a mature person knows it is illusion caused by ignorance and not a reality. Dushtam mam vikshate janah. Janah, an ordinary person, ignorant person, sees me as dushtam, as dushitam, as possessed of the dosha or the defects. Bhuta doshai sada sprushtam. All these doshas are there in bhuta, in the body, mind, sense complex, let us say. But sarabhuta samishwaram sada sprushtam. Whatever doshas or defects we see in the self, they all belong to these bhutas, to the body, mind, sense complex. And those defects or blemishes of the body, mind, sense complex are superimposed upon the self. And I feel that I, the self, is kami, krodhi, lobhi, dushta. Bhuta doshai sada asprashtam. Even though Atma is Sarvatma, It is present in everything and still untouched by the guna and dosha of everything. Adhisthana adhyaropa. Adhisthana, the substratum, is never affected by the guna and dosha of the adhyaropa. Like a rope is never affected by the poison of the snake, etc. Sarvabhutastameshwaram, I, who is the self of all, is nevertheless unaffected by the guna and the doshas of these upadis in which I shine. Yuktam brahmadhyaha sthavarantah pranina ekasya atmana sharirabhuta iti. You did make a statement based on this smriti that all the pranis or all living beings, beginning from Brahma up to smallest one, they're all the prana sharirabhuta ekasya atmana sharirabhuta. They're all of the nature of body of one atma. All these countless things, living beings, are the body of one non-dual Atma. Tat katham? In what way? There you quoted from the Smriti, but you should also explain to us the reasoning. So the sixth verse is much chaitanya vasyatvat sarv pranidhyam sada purmava pranina sarve. All these pranis are mama puhu, meaning they are all my body. That's the proposition, conclusion. Why? Mat chaitanya vasyatvad, because all of them are bhasya. They're all illumined, enlivened, illumined by I, Mat Chaitanya, I who am consciousness. By me, all of these are illumined, enlivened, and they're all my bodies. And I who is illumining them, Sarvatnyasya Vipapmanaha, I'm all knowing, devoid of all papa. They're all illumined by me, they're all my body. Sarvajnasya Vipapmana. I, consciousness, that is the eliminator of all, and devoid of all the dosha, the defects of papa, because the illuminator remains unaffected by the qualities of what is illumined. And all gunas and doshas are there in what is illumined, that's upadhi. Sarv pranidhyam sada. Atma illumines the buddhi of all the beings, and that's where the guna doshas may be there. But Atma is even unaffected by them. And so, the illumined is the body of the illuminator, and the illuminator remains unaffected by the attributes of the illumined. Yo vijnanamaya praneshu hrudyantar jyoti purushaha iti. This vijnanamaya, this conscious being, praneshu hrudyantar jyoti purushaha, who dwells in the cave of the heart, in the midst of all the sense organs. That Shruti says, Hrudi antar jyoti purushaha. Buddhyanta sakshyataya, the one that obtains the buddhi, obtains in the buddhi means one with the sakshi of the buddhi. This is inside, outside, not a primary sense, but subtler than buddhi, sakshi. Buddhyanta sakshyataya prakashamanasya. Atma that shines as the sakshi, the witness of everything, beginning from buddhi, who is within the buddhi, is sakshi of the buddhi. Within means subtler than the buddhi. Chaitanya Jyoti eva sarva praneshu atmatva. Therefore, one Chaitanya Jyoti and Jyoti alone is the Atma of all the pranis, because the buddhis, all the pranis are different. All those buddhis are illumined by one Atma. That's interesting. So, praneshu hrudyantar jyoti. Pranas are many. But jyoti is one, antar jyoti is one. Tasya cha buddhi tasya avasa vedamantarena swarupatah veda nirupanat. How do you say Atmas are many? What makes you arrive at the conclusion that Atmas are many? There is manyness someplace. Buddhi tasya avasa vedamantarena. Buddhis are many. In the avasa, the reflection in the buddhi also is many, which is called aham vritti, ahankara, chidavasa. There are many. So manyness that obtains, so you can say buddhi is like the reflecting medium. Chidavasa, ahankara, jivatma is like the reflection. There are many. Like the water containers are many, and the reflections in them also are many, but sun is one. So manyness is obtained somewhere. That manyness is usually superimposed upon the bimba, and then you arrive at the conclusion that there are many suns or many atmas. Swarupatah ved anirupanat. So when you look at this reflecting media, the reflection looks like there are many atmas, but you look at the atma, look at the sun. Bheda anirupanat, you cannot arrive at any bheda or the duality or manyness when you look at the sun. So also when you look at the consciousness, you cannot arrive at any duality or division. Ekasya atmana sarvani bhutani. Therefore Atma is one. Bhutas are many, Atma is one. Manyness of Atma is a conclusion arrived at by superimposing the manyness of bhutas upon the Atma. Like one may say the sun is many because the water containers are many, reflections are many, but that manyness doesn't belong to sun. All right. That one moment you give example, like the reflecting bimba, the image, the moment the reflection illustration is used, it brings about the idea of duality. Because you've experienced that sun, that is the bimba or the reflected, is different from the water reflecting medium and the reflection in the Tari bhasya prani tadbuddhinam sattvat advaita kshati. So bhasaga is their sun. Bhasya element is the water and the reflections. Here also Atma is the avabhasaka. Buddhis are many, chidabhasa are many. So sun is one, and the water part, and the reflection are another one. So Advaita Kshatihi, then you cannot say sun is one. So Atma is shining and gets reflected in the buddhis, which are the reflecting media. And the result is the Jivatma, Chidabhasa. So when you accept Chidabhasa, the prani is the living beings and their upadhi. How do you say Atma is one? Janma jnana vijnayam swapna jnana vadishyate. The jnanam, that knowledge that we have in the waking state, does appear to involve duality between the knower and the known. So let us look at the nature of what is known here. Janimat and Jnana Vijnayam. These pots and pans, etc., which are thought to be different, are, number one, they are Vijnayam, they are known objects of knowledge. Number two, Janimat, they are necessarily, they have birth, they have origin, and ultimately they perish. So this pot is these two attributes that are stated, Janimat, Jnana Vijnayam. The pot is Janimat, it has birth. Jnana Vijnayam, it is objectified by consciousness, an object of knowledge. So whatever you know, you think that the buddhis, which are all reflecting medium, and Chidabhas are all reflected, all of them are different from the Atma. But what is the nature of what you know? What all we know, Buddhi, for example, is Janimat has had a beginning and will also have an end. And Jnana Vijnana Buddhi also is illumined by Jnana of consciousness, object of knowledge. So this is the characteristic of everything that experience in waking state, is that all the objects and all the jivas and everything that experience by us, all of them have had, number one, Janimat, they had origin, they had a beginning, and Jnana Vijnayam, they are all Vijnaya, they are all objects of knowledge. That's what it is. But then, Swapnavat Ishyate, Swapna Jnanavat. But a similar situation also exists in dream. In dream also you have similar experience. When you feel that the world you are experiencing is different from you, the experiencer, so in dream also you have the conclusion that the experiencer and experienced are different. When you wake up, then you find that both the experiencer and experienced, the drashta and the dosha, both of them merge into the waker. Janimat Jnana Vijnayam. So what was in the dream was Janimat, had an origin. Jnana Vijnayam, illumined by knowledge or consciousness. So dream is known as to be mithya. Dream objects are mithya. What are dream objects? They have a beginning, Janimat, and they are all illumined by consciousness, objects of knowledge. So whatever is Janimat and Jnana Vijnayam, whatever has origin or whatever has birth, and whatever is illumined by consciousness, object of consciousness, they are mithya in the dream. Same thing obtains in waking, that waking also is mithya. Meaning that the duality which you think in the waking is tangible is also mithya, like that in the dream. Nityam nirvishayam jnanam. But you said jnana vijnayam, the pots and pans are all illumined by jnanam, by consciousness. They are all objects of consciousness. So therefore consciousness is possessed of the object savishayam jnanam. Is it not so? Says no. In the consciousness, the pots and pans have no existence at all. Consciousness, nirvishayam jnanam. The pots and pans are objects of knowledge, but the knowledge that illumines them is devoid of objectivity, objectless awareness. Tasmad dvaitam vidyate. If object stood apart from the illumined, stood apart from illuminator. If objects stood apart from subject, they are not. In the dream state, the objects don't stand apart from subject. They are all of them merged together, living no separate existence. And so the waking also, the objects look different. They are not. And therefore, there is no, the subject object, both of them have the same degree of reality. And the consciousness illumines both of them, that is devoid of Vishayatvam Nirvishayam. Nityam Nirvishayam Jnanam. Jnana of consciousness is Nityam. It doesn't have beginning. What consciousness illumines is Janimat, has a beginning, therefore it is perishable. The consciousness that illumines them is nityam, is eternal. Nirvisham, they are all Vishaya, the objects of illumination. Conscious that illumines them is nirvisham, devoid of the objectivity. Jnanam tasmad dvaitam na vidyate. Therefore, what is illumined does not stand apart from illuminator. Nothing stands apart from consciousness. So another way was they are all your body. And body doesn't stand apart from you. Similarly, here it says how nothing stands apart from consciousness. And now it's one non-dual. Okay, we'll continue. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.